The pounding on my door echoed through empty rooms. I opened it to find 2 officers on my porch. "Ma'am, your stepfather has just been arrested. Are you ready to sign the eviction order?" 1 minute earlier, he'd roared, "You think you own this place," before his fist connected with my jaw. 1 minute later, handcuffs clicked shut in my living room that didn't even have curtains yet. What he didn't know, this new house had more than smart locks. It had a silent plan designed to destroy every escape route he thought he had. "My name is Harper Lane, and 3 weeks ago, I thought inviting my mother and her new husband to see my first house would heal old wounds. Instead, it planted the seeds for what Gerald Pike would later call the biggest mistake of his pathetic life. The closing had been perfect, a starter home in Riverton, just outside Greenwood County, with original hardwood floors and a kitchen window that caught morning light like honey. At 32, working dispatch coordination for Stony Ridge EMS didn't exactly make me rich, but I'd saved every overtime dollar for 5 years. This house was mine, every doorknob and light switch. "Harper, sweetie, it's adorable. Mom Darlene Pike now." No longer Darlene Lane clutched her purse in my empty living room, eyes darting between the bay window and her husband. Gerald stood by the fireplace, running his thick fingers along the mantel like he was appraising livestock. "Needs work," he announced, voice filling the space I'd been savoring in silence. "Lucky you got me here. I know contractors, good ones, not those Mexican crews that'll rip you off." I bit the inside of my cheek. "I've already lined up and cancel 'em." He pulled out his phone, already scrolling. "Tommy owes me a favor. He'll start tomorrow." The first red flag wasn't even subtle. Gerald had been in Mom's life for 18 months, married for 6, and I'd watched him steamroll through every family dinner, every holiday gathering. But this was my house, my mortgage, my name on every document. "That's kind of you, Gerald, but I've got it handled." He looked up from his phone, and something shifted in his expression, a tightening around his jaw that I recognized from Thanksgiving when I'd declined his 3rd beer run request. "House like this needs a man's touch. Your mother agrees." Mom nodded quickly, that practiced smile stretching across her face. "Gerald's so handy. Harper, you should see what he did with our garage." "Yeah, I'd seen." He'd turned it into his workshop, though the only thing he seemed to work on was his beer consumption and sports betting apps. By the next morning, he was on my porch at 7:15 sharp, tool belt slung low on his hips, directing a van I hadn't called to my driveway. Tommy, a weathered guy with paint-stained jeans, looked apologetic as Gerald barked orders about checking the foundation and testing load-bearing walls. "I didn't approve this," I told Tommy directly. "Gerald said you were expecting us. Said he's family, handling things while you work." Gerald's hand landed heavy on my shoulder. "That's right. Family helps family. Now get to work, sweetheart. Someone's got to pay for all this." The second flag came wrapped in cardboard. I arrived home from a 12-hour shift to find boxes stacked in my garage, Gerald's things, golf clubs, file boxes marked Business Confidential, a mini fridge that reeked of old beer, temporary storage, he explained when I called Mom. "Just until our garage situation gets sorted." "What situation?" "Oh, didn't Darlene tell you we're converting it to a rental unit? Smart income, you know. Meanwhile, family helps." "Family helps family," I finished, ice forming in my chest. But the moment that changed everything came that Thursday evening. I'd installed a smart doorbell, the kind with motion sensors and 2-way audio, when I found Gerald in my kitchen with a locksmith. "What the hell is this?" Gerald didn't even look up from the fresh keys in his palm. "Upgrading your locks. These smart things you bought garbage. Any punk with YouTube can hack 'em." "Get out." My voice came out steadier than my hands. "Both of you. Now." The locksmith glanced between us, tool bag already half-packed. He knew a domestic situation when he saw one. Gerald waited until the van pulled away before turning to me, stepping close enough that I could smell the menthol cigarettes he claimed he'd quit. "This is our house now, Harper. Your mother's name might not be on the papers, but what's hers is mine, and what's mine." He bounced the keys in his palm, Smile spreading slow as spilled oil. I protect. I spent that night at my friend Tara's place. Door camera app open on my phone. Watching Gerald's truck sit in my driveway until 2:43 in the morning. Each minute that passed, something crystallized in my chest. Not fear, not even anger anymore. Something colder, more patient. The housewarming was supposed to happen that Saturday. Mom had already invited her book club. Gerald had told the boys about the game on my new TV, the one I hadn't bought yet. I smiled at the camera footage, at Gerald testing his shiny new key in my door. He had no idea that every second of footage was uploading to 3 different cloud servers. No idea that I'd already called Avery Sloan, the attorney who'd handled my colleague's restraining order last year. No idea that our house was about to become his crime scene. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. The living room still smelled like fresh paint when everything exploded. Saturday, 4:17 p.m. The housewarming in full swing. Mom's book club clustered around my kitchen island. Gerald's buddies sprawled across furniture I'd barely had time to arrange. Beer bottles already accumulating on surfaces I'd just finished polishing. Harper. Gerald's voice boomed from the hallway. Where's the paperwork for this place Rick here does home equity loans, might as well get you set up while rates are decent. Rick, a sweaty guy in a Cowboys jersey, raised his beer in agreement. Could probably pull 40-50 grand easy. Perfect for those renovations Gerald mentioned. I'm not interested in a loan. I kept my voice level, aware of how the conversation had suddenly quieted. Mom's friend Janet pretended to study my bookshelf. Don't be stupid. Gerald emerged from the hallway from my bedroom. I realized with a spike of rage, he'd been going through my things. You're sitting on equity doing nothing. Rick's offering you a favor here. The answer's no. The room held its breath. Gerald's face shifted through shades of red I'd only seen once before when a bartender had cut him off last Christmas. Everyone out. His words came out measured, controlled, the dangerous kind. Party's over. It's my house. Gerald. They're my guests. Out. He slammed his palm against the wall, and the sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Mom's book club scattered, gathering purses and mumbling about having somewhere to be. Gerald's buddies moved slower, but they moved. Rick muttering something about family stuff as he shuffled past. You too. Darlene. Gerald didn't look at my mother. His eyes locked on mine. Maybe I should stay. Mom started. I said go. She went. Of course she went. The front door clicked shut, and we were alone, the smart lock engaging with its electronic chirp. I shifted slightly, feeling the weight of the panic button app on my smartwatch Tara's suggestion after I'd told her about the locks. One long press would alert emergency services. You embarrassed me. Gerald moved closer, backing me toward the kitchen. In front of my friends. In my house. It's not your... Yes, it is. His fist connected with the wall beside my head, punching through the drywall I'd just painted dove gray. Your mother lives here, which means I live here. You think you own this place. I do own. The next hit wasn't aimed at the wall. His palm caught me across the shoulder, spinning me into the counter. My hip crashed against the granite edge, the upgraded counter I'd been so proud of, and I heard myself gasp. Then his fist came down on my jaw, not full force but enough to snap my head sideways, enough to make me taste copper. You think you own this place? He grabbed my wrist, twisting until I dropped my phone. You think you can disrespect me in front of... My finger found the watch button. Pressed. Held. The doorbell camera chimed motion detected. Then again. And again. The fuck is that? Gerald spun toward the door. Through the window, I saw Martha from next door, standing on my porch with her phone raised, recording. Behind her, Julio had his phone out too. The doorbell kept chiming. The panic alert had triggered the external alarm. What did you do? Gerald's grip tightened on my wrist. What did you do? The sirens answered for me. 2 Riverton PD cruisers pulled up fast, lights painting my new walls blue and red. The pounding on the door came seconds later. "Police, open up!" Gerald released me, stepping back, his face cycling through expressions rage to confusion to calculation. "You called the cops on family." I pressed my hand to my jaw, feeling the swelling already starting. "No, the house did." "Ma'am, sir, we need you to open this door." The officer's voice carried authority and impatience. Gerald straightened his shirt, put on his salesman smile. "Just a misunderstanding. Harper, tell them it was nothing. Family disagreement." I opened the door. Officer Chin badge number 2847 took one look at my face and shifted her stance. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" "He hit me." The words came out clear, clinical. The dispatcher in me taking over, pushed me into the counter, struck my jaw. My neighbors witnessed part of it. The doorbell camera has audio and video. "She's lying," Gerald started. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside." Officer Ruiz, Chin's partner, moved between us. "Keep your hands where I can see them." "This is ridiculous. I barely touched her. We were arguing about house stuff." "The camera recorded everything," I said quietly, "including the wall." Chin's eyes moved to the fist-sized hole in my freshly painted wall. "Sir, outside, now." Gerald went, but not quietly. I heard him on the porch, explaining how I was emotional, how I'd overreacted, how he was trying to help with the house and I was ungrateful. Classic Gerald talking, always talking, assuming he could manipulate any situation with enough words. Inside, Chin took photos of my jaw, my wrist, the wall. She had me write a statement while the swelling grew hot against my palm. Through the window, I watched Ruiz taking statements from Martha and Julio, their phones out, showing him their videos. "Do you want to press charges?" Chin asked. Behind her, through my bay window, I saw Mom's car creeping back down the street. She didn't stop. "Yes," I said, "and I'll be filing for an emergency protective order." "We can help with that. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight?" I looked around my violated living room beer bottles on my coffee table, the hole in my wall. My phone cracked on the kitchen floor where it had fallen. "This is my safe place," I said. "He's the one who needs to leave." Chin nodded, understanding in her eyes. "The emergency order will handle that. But tonight, I have cameras, smart locks. Neighbors who care." I touched my jaw, wincing. "And now I have a police report. I'm staying." Through the window, I watched Gerald arguing with Ruiz, his gestures getting bigger, more aggressive. He had no idea what was coming. No idea that Avery Sloan was already drafting paperwork, that my cameras had uploaded everything to multiple servers, that his own words, "You think you own this place," that would become evidence against him. The house was mine, and I was about to prove it. The emergency room at Riverside Medical was quiet for a Saturday night, just me, a kid with a skateboard injury, and an elderly woman with chest pains. The triage nurse, someone I recognized from EMS runs, took one look at my face and fast-tracked me through. "Document everything," she whispered, pulling the curtain. "Photos from every angle." The Dr. Young, methodical, narrated into his recorder as he examined me. Contusion on the left mandible. Subcutaneous hematoma. Possible hairline fracture. X-ray recommended. Each clinical term was another nail in Gerald's coffin. By 11:30 p.m. I had a folder thick with medical documentation, photographs under those harsh hospital lights that made the bruising look like spilled ink across my jaw. The discharge papers included phrases like domestic violence incident and assault-related trauma. Perfect. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, interior light on, and made my list, Operation Quiet Lock. The name came to me instantly, not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet clicking shut of every door Gerald thought he could walk through. First call Avery Sloan. Even at midnight. She answered on the second ring. "Harper Tara mentioned you might Jesus. Are you okay?" "I need an emergency protective order, and then I need to bury him legally." I'm opening my laptop now. Tell me everything. While I talked, I pulled up my doorbell app. The footage was pristine. Gerald's "You think you own this place" came through clear as day, followed by the sounds of impact. You could see my neighbors gathering, recording. The timestamp showed everything, a minute-by-minute destruction of any defense he might mount. "This is gold," Avery said. "I mean, I'm sorry you went through this, but legally he handed you everything. I can have the EPO filed first thing Monday morning." "What about tomorrow, Sunday?" "Courthouse is closed, but I heard typing. Emergency judge on call. If you're willing to meet me at my office at 7 a.m., we can try for an emergency filing. Judges don't like domestic violence disrupting their Sundays." Second task. Digital evidence. I uploaded everything to 3 cloud services, then drove to the 24-hour FedEx and printed copies. The kid behind the counter didn't even blink at my bruised face. Riverton had that kind of neighborhood. I made 5 complete sets, 1 for Avery, 1 for the police, 1 for my files, 2 for backup. Then I bought a fresh USB drive and copied everything again. Third, the house. I drove home slowly, watching for Gerald's truck. The street was quiet, porch light still on. Inside, the hole in my wall gaped like a wound. I took more photos, then called the emergency line for Safe Secure Home Systems. "I need a complete security upgrade. Tonight." "Ma'am, we don't usually." "I'll pay the emergency fee. Cash. I need new locks that can be remotely managed, interior cameras, and everything backing up to the cloud." 3:45 a.m. A van pulled up. The technician, a woman named Rosa, took one look at my face and the hole in the wall and got to work without questions. By dawn, I had a fortress. Smart locks with temporary codes I could create and delete instantly. Cameras in every room except the bathroom. Motion sensors. All controlled from my phone. All recording to servers Gerald would never find. Fourth financial protection. Sunday morning, 6 a.m. I was at my laptop with coffee that tasted like determination. I put fraud alerts on all my credit reports. Changed every password. Called my mortgage company's emergency line and added a verbal password, no changes without it. Opened a new bank account at a completely different bank. Transferred half my savings. Gerald had mentioned home equity loans. I wanted no vulnerability there. Then I found it. Digging through property records online. Cross-referencing with business filings. Gerald Pike Enterprises. LLC dissolved 2 years ago for failure to pay state fees. G. Pike Solutions 3 lawsuits for breach of contract. A trail of financial destruction following him like a shadow. Screenshots. Saved, uploaded, printed, Fifth Allies. I texted Martha and Julio, thanking them for their help, asking them to save their videos. Martha replied immediately, "Honey, we've already sent them to the police. That man is not welcome on this street." I reached out to colleagues at EMS who dealt with protective orders, got recommendations for security companies, victim advocates, even a therapist who specialized in domestic violence cases. Built my network while Gerald probably slept off his Saturday night. But the most important call came at 8:15 a.m. after I'd met with Avery and filed the emergency order. "Mom." Silence. Then, "Harper, sweetie, you have to understand. I understand that your husband assaulted me, in my home, and you left. He was upset. You embarrassed him. I have an emergency protective order. It will be served today. He cannot come within 500 feet of me or my property. Harper, please. He's sorry. He wants to apologize, make things right. Then he can apologize to the judge." "Mom, I love you, but if you choose him, you're choosing someone who attacked your daughter. I'm done pretending that's okay." I hung up before she could respond. There would be time for that pain later. Right now, I had work to do. Avery texted at 9:30 a.m. EPO granted. Judge was not happy about his Sunday being interrupted by domestic violence. Order includes residence exclusion. He cannot enter your property for any reason. Sheriff will serve papers today. I stood in my living room, surrounded by legal documents and security equipment boxes, and felt something shift. The bruise on my jaw throbbed. But underneath the pain was something else. Power. Legal. Documented. Uploaded. Backed up power. My phone buzzed. The new security system app showed motion at my front door. Gerald's truck in my driveway. He was trying his key, the one he'd copied without permission. Watching him realize it didn't work. Seeing his face cycle through confusion to rage that was worth every penny of the emergency installation fee, he pounded on the door. "Harper, open up. We need to talk." I hit the intercom button. "You're being recorded. The police have been notified. Your protective order will be served within the hour." "You little bitch. This is my house too." I smiled, even though it hurt my jaw. Every word he said was evidence. Every threat another violation. The camera caught it all in high definition, automatically uploading to the cloud. The quiet lock was clicking into place, and Gerald Pike was about to learn what it meant to be on the wrong side of it. The deputy served Gerald the EPO at 11:47 a.m. Sunday morning. I watched through my camera as Gerald's face went from cocky to confused to volcanic. He crumpled the papers, threw them at the deputy's feet, and peeled out of my driveway hard enough to leave rubber on the pavement. Within an hour, the real Gerald emerged from behind his good old boy mask. My phone rang from an unknown number, then another, and another. I let them all go to voicemail, each one a beautiful piece of evidence. "You think you're smart, I know people at City Hall. One call, and your power gets shut off for maintenance. Your water too. Let's see how long you last without utilities. Princess." I forwarded the recording to Avery and made my own call to Janine at Riverton Public Utilities. We'd gone to high school together. She'd dispatched for EMS before moving to the city. "Harper heard you bought the old Morrison place." "How's Janine? I need a favor. Can you check who's listed on my utility accounts?" Keyboard clicks. "Just you, Han." "Why?" "My mom's husband is threatening to have my utilities shut off. Claims he knows people." A snort. "Gerald Pike. That blowhard called here Thursday trying to add himself to your account. Said he was your father and handling your finances. I told him to pound sand unless he had power of attorney." "Can you flag my account?" "No changes without me personally showing ID." "Already done, sweetie." The second he said handling her finances about a grown woman with perfect payment history, my BS detector went nuclear. "You want me to document his call? Please, send it to this email." I gave her Avery's address. The next escalation came Monday afternoon. Gerald's longtime buddy, Marcus Williams, called from his real estate office. "Harper, sweetheart, let's talk sense. Gerald's willing to buy out your share of the house. Cash offer. You could start fresh somewhere without all this drama. My share, it's entirely my house." "Marcus, come on now. Gerald's been investing in that property, the renovations, the improvements he's planned. That creates equity interest. Plus, with Darlene living there..." "Marcus, are you recording this call?" Pause. "Why would I?" "Because I am. And what you're describing sounds like fraud. Gerald has no legal claim to my property. Zero. If you continue to harass me on his behalf, you'll be named in the civil suit." I hung up and immediately called Avery. "He's trying to establish common law ownership through your mother," she said. "It's bullshit, but it tells us his game plan. I'm filing an addendum to the EPO to include third-party harassment. Keep recording everything." Tuesday brought the financial probe. My bank called someone had tried to access my mortgage information, claiming to be my financial advisor. The description matched Gerald perfectly. The fraud alert I'd placed stopped him cold, but the attempt was logged. Then I got creative. Using public records and some careful social media searching, I mapped out Gerald's network. His contractor buddy Tommy turns out he had liens against him from 3 different suppliers. Rick, the home equity loan shark his company was under investigation by the State Banking Commission. Every one of Gerald's connections had dirt. I compiled it all into a folder Avery labeled Mutual Assured Destruction. If Gerald wanted to play the connection game, he'd find his friends suddenly very unwilling to help. Wednesday. The stakes rose. Mom called from her friend's phone. "Harper, please. Gerald's lost his mind. He says if you don't drop the order, he'll..." Her voice dropped. He knows about your dad's pension. My blood went cold. Dad had died when I was 23, leaving his railroad pension to me since Mom had remarried. It wasn't much, $1,200 a month, but it had helped with the down payment. How does he know about that? He went through my papers. Harper, he's talking about contesting it, saying as your stepfather, Mom, where are you right now? Janet's house. He doesn't know I'm calling. Stay there. Do not go back to him. I pulled up another legal site. And Mom, if he took documents from your house about my finances, that's theft. Are you willing to testify to that? Silence. Then, quietly, he's not the man I thought he was. No, I agreed. He's exactly the man I knew he was. The question is, what you're going to do about it. Thursday morning, Avery filed 2 more motions, one for extended protection, another for criminal theft charges related to the stolen financial documents. She also found something beautiful in Gerald's past, an unpaid judgment from his previous divorce. $60,000 he owed his ex-wife. We can use this, Avery explained. He comes near you again. We file for asset freezing based on flight risk. Man with massive debts and violent tendencies, judge won't hesitate. But Gerald's biggest mistake came Thursday night. I was reviewing camera footage when I caught it. Gerald's truck driving slowly past my house at 2:14 a.m., then again at 3:22 a.m. Clear violation of the 500-foot restriction. The license plate, his face illuminated by streetlights, all crystal clear in my new high-definition cameras. I called the police non-emergency line. I need to report an EPO violation. I have video evidence. By dawn Friday, there was a warrant for Gerald's arrest, but I wasn't done. I pulled the business card Marcus Williams had left in my door, another violation, technically, and called his office. Marcus, this is Harper Lane. I have a business proposition. Harper, I don't think you're going to want to hear this. I have documentation of Gerald's fraudulent business dealings, including the 3 companies he bankrupted. I also have evidence of his attempt to fraudulently access my mortgage through your office's IP address. Dead silence. However, I continued, I'm willing to forget that last part if you deliver a message. Gerald has 24 hours to turn himself in on the warrant. If he doesn't, I'm not just pressing criminal charges. I'm going civil. My attorney has already found his hidden assets, the boat registered under his brother's name, the cryptocurrency account he thinks nobody knows about. His ex-wife is also very interested in collecting her $60,000 plus interest. That's blackmail. No, Marcus, it's consequences. 24 hours. I hung up and looked at the hole in my wall still unrepaired. Evidence, Avery had said. Keep everything as evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You win this round, but this isn't over. I screenshotted it, forwarded it to Avery, and typed back, yes, it is. Then I blocked the number and made myself a cup of coffee in my kitchen. In my house, surrounded by the security I'd built and the law I'd weaponized. Gerald Pike thought he owned this place. He was about to learn he didn't even own his own freedom. Friday afternoon, Avery called with news that made me smile despite my still tender jaw. Gerald's attorney reached out. They want to negotiate a property exchange. He'll return some items he claims are his if you'll agree to let him retrieve them under supervision. What items? I asked, already knowing this was a trap. Apparently, there are business documents and personal effects in your garage. His lawyer's trying to establish precedent that he had residency rights. Perfect. I spun in my kitchen chair, plan crystallizing. Tell them yes. Harper, I don't think... Trust me. Set it for tomorrow, 2 p.m. Make sure they specify that deputy supervision is required. I want law enforcement present. And Avery, tell them he has exactly 1 hour. What are you planning? The end game. I spent Friday night preparing. First, I photographed everything in my garage that Gerald had dumped there, every box, every file, every piece of junk. Then I went through it all. The confidential business documents were mostly old tax returns showing massive losses and desperate loan applications. I scanned everything, uploaded it to multiple drives. Then I found the golden ticket a credit application where Gerald had listed my address as his primary residence, dated 2 days before the assault. Fraud. Federal mail fraud if he'd mailed it. Saturday morning. I hired a locksmith to stand by, off-site, told him to wait at the coffee shop down the street until I texted, set up my laptop to stream all camera feeds to Avery's office. Called Deputy Ruiz directly. "Ma'am, I'll be honest," Ruiz said. "We see these supervised retrievals go bad all the time. You sure you want to do this?" "I'm counting on it going bad," I replied. "Just have your body cam running." 1:45 p.m. I positioned myself in the living room with a clear view of both the front door and garage access. Mom had texted 6 times asking to be there. I'd refused every request. This wasn't about her anymore. Gerald arrived at 1:58 p.m. in his truck, followed by a deputy cruiser. But he wasn't alone. He'd brought 2 friends as witnesses, and Mom sat in the passenger seat. Classic Gerald, always pushing boundaries. Deputy Ruiz knocked. "Ms. Lane, Mr. Pike is here for the supervised retrieval." I opened the door, keeping the chain on. "Only Gerald and the deputy. The EPO specifically prohibits him from bringing associates to my property." "These are just witnesses," Gerald started. "The order says supervised by law enforcement, not an audience." I held up my phone, showing I was recording. "Deputy, are you comfortable proceeding with unauthorized individuals present?" Ruiz turned to Gerald. "They stay in the truck." Gerald's jaw clenched, that telltale sign I now knew preceded violence. "Fine, but Darlene can surely—" "No." I made eye contact with Mom through the windshield. "Nobody else." I unlocked the chain, opened the door exactly wide enough for them to enter. Gerald pushed past, shoulder-checking me despite Ruiz watching. The body cam caught it all. "My stuff's in the garage." He headed straight for it, too familiar with my house layout. 1 hour, I reminded him. "Starting now." Gerald made a show of examining boxes, pulling out papers, tossing things around. He was looking for something specific, probably anything that could establish residency. 20 minutes in, he found the credit application. "This proves it." He waved the paper at Ruiz. "This is my legal address. That you fraudulently used without permission." I said calmly, "Deputy, please note he's admitting to mail fraud." Gerald's face went purple. "You little—" He stepped toward me. "Sir, back up." Ruiz moved between us. "She's setting me up. This whole thing is a setup." "Then leave," I said. "You've got 37 minutes. That's when Gerald made his critical mistake. He grabbed a box of his papers and headed not for the door, but toward my home office. "Where are you going?" I followed, phone recording. "Need to check I didn't leave anything in the office." "You've never been in my office." "Sure I have. When I was helping with the house." He pushed open the door, and I saw his real goal, my desk, where he assumed I kept the house paperwork. "Deputy, he's exceeding the scope of the retrieval agreement." "Sir, garage only," Ruiz said. "I have rights. This is my residence too." Gerald spun around, and suddenly he was in my face, spittle flying. "You think you own this place. You think you can just kick me out." "Back up, sir. Now." Gerald raised his hand, maybe to point, maybe to push, maybe to hit. Didn't matter. The moment his hand came up, I hit the panic button on my watch. The house alarm shrieked. The cameras switched to emergency recording, and Ruiz's hand went to his radio. "I need backup at 427 Maple Lane." "EPO violation in progress." Gerald grabbed my wrist, the same one he'd twisted before. "Shut it off. Shut it off." "Sir, hands off now." Ruiz pulled Gerald back, but Gerald yanked free, shoving me hard into the doorframe. My shoulder hit with a crack that the cameras certainly caught. That's when Martha appeared at my front door, phone already recording. "I've called 911. They're coming." Gerald lunged for my phone, trying to grab it, to stop the recording. His fingers caught my sleeve, tearing it, leaving scratches down my arm. Ruiz finally got hold of him, but Gerald twisted, threw an elbow that caught the deputy in the ribs. And that was it. Assault on an officer. Get on the ground now. Gerald didn't comply. He swung wildly, catching me in the shoulder, sending me stumbling. Through the chaos, I saw Mom standing in my doorway, hand over her mouth, finally seeing who she'd married. 2 more cruisers screamed up my street. Officers flooded in. Gerald fought all of them, screaming about his rights, about setup, about owning this place. Ma'am, are you hurt? An officer helped me to the couch while they wrestled Gerald down. He violated the EPO multiple times, grabbed me, shoved me, accessed areas outside the agreement. I kept my voice clinical, professional. Everything's on camera. The cuffs went on with a satisfying click. Gerald was still screaming threats as they dragged him out. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. Avery arrived 15 minutes later with the extended protection order and eviction papers. The assault on the deputy just upgraded everything. He's looking at felony charges now. And the eviction. Sign here. She laid the papers on my coffee table, the one still littered with Gerald's beer bottles from last week. Any possessions he left are considered abandoned property after 48 hours. I signed with the pen Dad had given me for college graduation. It felt appropriate. Harper. Mom stood in the doorway, tears streaming. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You knew, I said quietly. You just chose not to see it. The locksmith arrived while the police were still processing the scene. By 4:30 p.m., every lock in my house had been changed again. The codes Gerald might have seen were deleted, new ones created and shared only with Avery. As the last cruiser pulled away, I stood on my porch and watched Gerald's truck get towed. It had been parked illegally, Ruiz noted, within 500 feet of my property. One more violation, one more charge, one more bar in the cage Gerald had built for himself. Sunday evening, 6:22 p.m. Gerald made bail. By 6:45 p.m., he was already violating the expanded protective order. I didn't see him directly. The beauty of my new camera system was the geo-fencing alerts. The moment his phone's GPS crossed into the 1,000-foot radius the judge had granted after the assault on Deputy Ruiz, my phone lit up like Christmas. 3 separate apps tracked his approach to the security system, the doorbell camera, and the special monitoring app Avery had recommended. He'd parked at the old gas station on Riverside, technically 1,012 feet from my property line. But I knew Gerald. He hadn't come to honor boundaries. I called Ruiz's cell directly. He's here. On my way. Don't engage. Wasn't planning to. I pulled up the camera feeds on my laptop, my TV, my tablet, every screen showing different angles. But deputy, he brought friends. 2 trucks pulled up behind Gerald's. 3 men got out, including Marcus Williams and Gerald's brother Dale. They stood at the gas station edge, drinking beer, voices carrying just enough for my enhanced microphones to pick up fragments. Show that bitch. Thinks she owns at my house too. I started recording everything, streams backing up to 3 different cloud services plus Avery's secure server. Then I noticed movement on the east camera. Mom, walking up my driveway. The doorbell rang. I answered through the intercom. Harper, please, let me in. We need to talk. Are you alone? Of course I'm. She turned, and I saw her eyes flick toward the gas station. She knew they were there. You're helping him violate the protective order. I'm your mother. Surely I can. Mom, if you're here on his behalf, you're an accomplice. I'm recording this interaction. Leave now, or I add you to the order. She pressed her palm to the door. Harper, he's desperate. He says if you'll just give him the deed to look at, to prove you own it alone, he'll leave you alone. There it was. The trap. The deed is public record. Mom, he can look it up at the courthouse. I kept my voice steady, knowing this was all being recorded. But we both know that's not what he wants. He just needs to see it, hold it, know it's real. So he can destroy it, forge something on it, plant evidence of residency. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Tell him the deed is in my safety deposit box at Riverton First National. Bank opens at 9 a.m. Monday. It wasn't. The deed was in Avery's office safe, along with copies in 3 other secure locations. But Gerald didn't need to know that. Mom left. Shoulders slumped. I watched her walk directly to the gas station, saw her talking to Gerald, saw him slam his hand on his truck hood. Then I saw him pull out his phone. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker while recording, "You think you're smart. Your mom told me about the bank. 9 a.m. Huh, we'll see about that. You can't hide behind cops forever. Harper, that house is half mine, and I'm going to prove it." Perfect. Premeditated threat, implied stalking, and admission he intended to confront me at the bank. I forwarded it to Avery and Ruiz, but Gerald wasn't done. 8:43 p.m. Marcus Williams knocked on my door. "I'm alone," he called out. "Just need 2 minutes." I spoke through the intercom. "You're violating the protection order by acting as Gerald's agent. I'm here as a friend, Harper, someone who's worried about how this ends. It ends with Gerald in jail if he doesn't back off." Marcus pulled out an envelope, held it up to the doorbell camera. 30,000 cash. Gerald's offering to walk away. No claims, no contact, nothing. Just take the money and give him a document saying he has no interest in the property. That document already exists. It's called a deed. I'm the only name on it. Harper, please. Marcus, you're on camera attempting to bribe me to circumvent a protective order. You have 10 seconds to leave before I call the police. He left the envelope on my porch and retreated. I let it sit there, cameras rolling, establishing that I never touched it. Let Gerald explain to the police why his money was on my doorstep. 9:15 p.m. The escalation I'd been expecting. Dale Pike, Gerald's brother, started walking toward my house from the gas station. Drunk, stumbling, but purposeful. In his hand, a gas can. I called 911 immediately. 427 Maple Lane. Man approaching with accelerant. Multiple EPO violations in progress. Dale made it to my property line before the sirens started. He stood there, swaying, gas can raised like a toast. This was supposed to be Gerald's house. He yelled, "You ruined everything." The cameras caught every word, every gesture, the way he started pouring gasoline along my fence line. They also caught him dropping his lighter when the police cars screamed around the corner. But here was the beautiful thing while everyone was watching Dale get tackled and arrested. Nobody noticed the second unit approaching the gas station. Nobody except my west-facing camera, which captured Gerald trying to run, trying to claim he hadn't sent his brother, hadn't orchestrated anything. The enhanced audio picked up Deputy Ruiz reading Gerald his rights for the second time in 24 hours. Conspiracy to commit arson, violation of protective order, witness intimidation. "She set me up," Gerald screamed. "She planted that money. Made my brother. Your brother's BAC is .18, Mr. Pike, and we have his text messages to you from an hour ago. Ready when you are, bro. She won't see it coming." I stood at my window, watching the gas station become a crime scene. 3 arrests, Gerald, Dale, and eventually Marcus when they found more bribe money in his truck and texts discussing the plan to smoke her out. Mom sat in her car, watching it all unfold. When she looked toward my house, I stood in full view of the window, let her see me whole, safe, victorious in my own home. My phone buzzed. "Avery. They just upgraded charges to attempted arson and conspiracy. Gerald's bail is revoked. He's not getting out this time." One more call to make. I dialed the gas station owner, whom I'd gone to school with. "Hey, Jim, it's Harper Lane. That security footage from tonight. The police will want it, but I'd also like a copy for the civil suit. Gerald Pike has about 60,000 in hidden assets, and I intend to find every penny. After what that asshole just tried Harper, I'll testify myself. Nobody threatens to burn down a neighbor's house at my station." I walked to my front door, opened it, and picked up the envelope of cash. $30,000 in hundreds. Gerald's prints all over it. Evidence of bribery, conspiracy, and best of all proof he'd been lying about being broke. His ex-wife was going to love hearing about this. I closed my door, engaged all 3 locks, and made myself tea in my kitchen. Through the window, I could see the last police car pulling away, Gerald in the back, his face pressed against the glass, staring at my house. "You think you own this place," I said to the empty room, raising my mug in a mock toast. "No, Gerald, I know I do." Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I stood outside Riverton First National Bank with Avery, Deputy Ruiz, and a court-appointed witness. Gerald might be in custody, but I'd learned never to underestimate his network of idiots. "You really think someone will show?" Ruiz asked, hand resting casual on his duty belt. "Gerald told 3 people I'd be here with the deed. At least one will try something." I was right. 9:14 a.m. Rick, the home equity loan shark, walked up with his phone already recording. Harper. What a coincidence. "Hey, since you're here, maybe we can discuss that loan opportunity. Rick, you're being recorded by bank security, police body cam, and my attorney. Would you like to continue harassing a victim of attempted arson?" He backed away, but kept filming. I let him. Every second of footage would only help my case. Inside the bank, I made a show of accessing my safety deposit box, pulling out papers that were actually just printed copies of public records. The real deed remained safe in Avery's office. But Rick, watching through the window, didn't need to know that. By noon, Avery had filed the civil suit: assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, property damage, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted arson. We named Gerald, Dale, Marcus, and does 1 to 10 for any other conspirators we'd uncover. The beautiful part, Avery explained over lunch, is that once we file, we get discovery. Every text, every email, every financial record. 2 p.m. Gerald called from jail. I let it record. "Harper, please, I'm sorry. I lost my temper, but this has gone too far. You tried to burn down my house, Gerald." "That was Dale. He was drunk, acting stupid. I never told him. Your text messages say otherwise." Silence. Then, quieter. "What do you want?" "I want you to sign a confession. Full admission of everything. The assault, the fraud attempts, the conspiracy. That'll add years too. Or I play every recording, show every video, present every piece of evidence at trial. Your choice: plea deal for maybe 3 years, or trial for possibly 10. You vindictive little..." I hung up. Let him stew. 3:30 p.m. Mom appeared at my door again. This time, I saw defeat in her posture before she even rang the bell. "I need to get some things," she said through the intercom. "My jewelry, some clothes. They're in the garage." "You never lived here, Mom. You have no belongings here." "Harper, I'm leaving him." "I've filed for divorce. I just need..." I opened the door but kept the chain on. She looked older, smaller, like Gerald's arrest had deflated her. "The jewelry Gerald stored here that he claimed was yours." I pulled out my phone, showed her photos. "I documented everything. Your jewelry has pawnshop tags from 2022. The clothes are from Goodwill. He was using you to establish fake residency." Her face crumbled. "He said they were family heirlooms. Said he was keeping them safe for me." "Mom, everything with Gerald is a lie. Every single thing." "I know that now." She pulled out a folder. "I brought these. Thought they might help. Bank statements, loan applications, 3 life insurance policies all taken out on me without my knowledge. Gerald listed as beneficiary." Jesus Christ. Avery, reading over my shoulder, grabbed the papers. "This is attempted insurance fraud, and with the arson attempt, this could be conspiracy to commit murder." Mom's legs gave out. I caught her, guided her to my porch chair, the one I'd bought for peaceful mornings that had turned into a witness stand. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Harper, I swear I didn't know about the policies." "But you knew he was violent. You knew he was controlling. You knew, and you chose him anyway." "I was lonely. After your father died, Dad would be disgusted." The words came out sharper than intended, but I didn't take them back. He worked his whole life to leave us secure, and you handed it all to a con artist. 4:45 p.m. Avery's phone rang. Gerald's public defender, wanting to negotiate. My client is willing to plead no contest to simple assault and trespassing. Time served. 2 years probation. Avery laughed. Your client is facing 15 felonies. We have video, audio, documentation, and now evidence of insurance fraud. Tell Gerald his only negotiation is whether he wants consecutive or concurrent sentences. 5 p.m. Exactly. I stood in my living room where it had all started. The hole in the wall had been photographed, measured, documented from every angle. Tomorrow, contractors would fix it. Tonight, it was evidence. My phone rang. Gerald's lawyer. Ms. Lane, my client wants to make a deal. Full confession, all charges. But he wants something in return. What? A letter saying the house was never meant to be his, that he has no claim, never had a claim, and that you acknowledge he was just confused about the ownership. I almost laughed. Even facing decades in prison, Gerald needed to save face, needed a document that would let him tell inmates he'd been tricked, not beaten. I'll give him better. I'll write that I, Harper Lane, sole owner of 427 Maple Lane, purchased with my own funds, titled in my name alone, graciously allowed him to store items temporarily in my garage out of respect for my mother, and that any confusion about ownership was entirely his own delusion. Silence. Then, he'll take it. 7:22 p.m. The news vans arrived. Attempted arson in a quiet neighborhood, family drama, escalating domestic violence. It was ratings gold. Martha had already given 2 interviews. Bless her heart, describing the terror that man brought to our peaceful street. I watched from my window as reporters set up on the sidewalk, carefully outside my property line. My phone rang unknown numbers, journalists hunting for a statement. I texted Avery, "Can I talk to them?" "Absolutely not, but I can." She arrived within minutes, power suit immaculate despite the hour, and stood on my porch like an avenging angel in Armani. My client, Ms. Harper Lane, has been the victim of sustained harassment, assault, and attempted destruction of property by her mother's estranged husband. Thanks to Ms. Lane's meticulous documentation and the swift response of local law enforcement, the perpetrator and his co-conspirators are in custody. We trust the district attorney will pursue appropriate charges. Was this really about a house? A reporter called out. Avery smiled, cold and sharp. This was about a man who believed he was entitled to a woman's property, her safety, and her life. He was wrong on all counts. 8:40 p.m. I sat in my kitchen, sorting through the day's evidence with Avery. The insurance policies were the smoking gun dated 2 weeks before the assault, increasing in value. Gerald's signature on every one. With this, we're looking at attempted murder for hire, Avery said. The arson wasn't random. He was trying to cash in. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. You think you own this place. You think you've won. This isn't over. G may be locked up, but his debts aren't. People will come collecting, and guess whose address he gave them? Sleep tight. I screenshot it, forwarded to Ruiz, then typed back, "Thanks for the written threat. My attorney will add you to the lawsuit. P.S. I have cameras everywhere." No response. 9 p.m. Mom knocked one last time. "Harper, I'm staying at Janet's. I just wanted to say..." She paused, gathering herself. "You're stronger than I ever was. Your father would be proud." Dad would have never let Gerald through the door. No, she agreed. He wouldn't have. I'm sorry I did. She left the divorce papers on my porch. I'd won the house, the case, everything. But watching my mother walk away, knowing she'd chosen Gerald until he'd literally tried to burn down my life, that victory tasted like ash. The doorbell camera chimed motion detected. But when I checked, it was just a cat, crossing my porch like it owned the place. You and me both, buddy. I told the screen. You and me both. Tomorrow, Gerald would sign his confession. Tomorrow, the contractors would fix my wall. Tomorrow, I'd finally be safe in my own home. But tonight, I sat in my kitchen with every light on, cameras rolling, alarms set, waiting for whatever other shoes Gerald had left to drop. The house was mine. I'd proven that with papers, police, and patience. Now I just had to survive the aftermath. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. The courtroom was packed. Gerald in orange jumpsuit and shackles, his face gray without his usual bourbon flush. Dale beside him, looking confused like he still didn't understand how pouring gasoline had consequences. Marcus in a suit, trying to distance himself from the others. Judge Patricia Hoffman read the charges like a grocery list of stupidity. Each guilty from Gerald's mouth came quieter than the last. When she reached attempted insurance fraud with intent to commit arson, his shoulders finally slumped. Mr. Pike, you've pled guilty to 15 felony charges. The plea agreement recommends 8 to 12 years. However, given the premeditated nature of these crimes, particularly the insurance policies taken out on Ms. Lane, I'm inclined toward the maximum. She looked directly at him. You didn't just assault this woman. You tried to erase her from her own life. Your Honor, Gerald's lawyer started. My client was confused about property rights. Confused? Judge Hoffman held up the insurance policies. He was so confused he took out 3 life insurance policies on his stepdaughter. So confused he texted his brother about smoking her out. No, counselor. Your client knew exactly what he was doing. The gavel came down. 12 years, credit for time served, lifetime protective order, restitution of $90,000 for damages, legal fees, and emotional distress. Gerald turned to look at me as they led him away. You think you own this place, he mouthed. I know I do, I said aloud, clear enough for the court reporter to capture. Outside the courthouse, Avery popped champagne from a gas station classy to the end. His ex-wife called. She's filing liens on everything he owns for back support. Between her and our restitution, Gerald will be washing dishes in prison just to buy ramen. Mom waited by my car, divorce papers clutched in her hands. It's final, she said. I'm free. Are you? She flinched. Harper, I know I failed you. I chose him over my own daughter's safety. I'll live with that forever. Good. I unlocked my car. Maybe next time a man shows you red flags, you'll believe them. There won't be a next time. She pulled out an envelope. This is Dad's pension paperwork. Gerald never got to it. It's all here, all safe. Still in your name. I took it, felt Dad's signature through the paper. He would have shot Gerald the first time he raised his voice at me. Yes, Mom agreed. He would have. And I should have too. Back at my house the contractors had finished. The wall was perfect, painted the exact shade of dove gray, like the violence had never happened. But I kept the photos, the video, every piece of evidence locked in a safety deposit box at a completely different bank. Martha brought cookies. Julio offered to install extra motion lights. And Jim from the gas station sent a fruit basket with a card. Sorry my station was crime scene central. Free coffee for life. The doorbell rang at 4:17 p.m. My hand went to my phone automatically, checking cameras. But it was just the locksmith, Rosa, who'd done my emergency installation. Final check, she said. Want to make sure everything's still working perfect. We went through every lock, every camera, every sensor, all functioning, all recording, all mine. You know, Rosa said, testing the last deadbolt. I've installed a lot of panic systems. Most people never need them, but you used yours perfectly, documented everything, stayed calm, let the law work. I work in emergency services, I told her. I know the difference between being a victim and being a witness to your own rescue. That evening, 7:30 p.m., I sat on my porch with a glass of wine, my first since this all started. The street was quiet. No trucks at the gas station, no angry voices, no threats, just suburban peace and the distant sound of kids playing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. then recognized the area code, the state prison. "This is a prepaid call from an inmate at—" I hung up. Gerald could rot. His commissary account could stay empty. His calls could go unanswered. He'd stolen enough of my peace. The phone immediately rang again. This time, I blocked the number entirely, then called the prison. "This is Harper Lane. Gerald Pike, inmate number 87492, is attempting contact in violation of a protective order. Please add me to his no-call list." "Yes, ma'am. He won't be able to call you again." 8:45 p.m. I stood in my living room where it all started, where Gerald had screamed, "You think you own this place," where his fist had cracked my wall and my jaw, where everything had changed. I ran my hand over the repaired wall. Smooth, perfect, like new. My house, my walls, my life. The security app showed all clear. Every camera, every sensor, every lock engaged and functioning. The bank app showed the restitution payment pending first installment already processed from Gerald's seized assets. The cloud storage showed dozens of files labeled "Evidence my insurance policy against any future claims." I pulled out my phone and deleted Mom's number. She could earn her way back into my life, but not today. Maybe not for many todays. The doorbell camera caught me standing on my own porch, raising my wine glass to the stars coming out over Riverton. "You think you own this place?" I said to the empty street, to the ghost of Gerald's rage, to anyone who thought they could take what I'd earned. The smart lock clicked behind me as I went inside that beautiful, quiet sound of security. I didn't think I owned this place. I knew it. Had the deed, the mortgage, the insurance, the protective order, and 12 years of Gerald's prison sentence to prove it. The house was mine. Finally, completely, legally mine. And tonight, for the first time since I'd bought it, it actually felt like home. The locks engaged with their electronic chirp, my favorite sound in the world. Safe, secure, mine. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious, where are you listening from? Drop a comment and let me know what city or country you're in. I'd love to connect with all of you if this story resonated with you. Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. Have you ever had to stand your ground against someone who wouldn't take no for an answer? I'd love to hear your experiences.